Senator Carl Levin tonight, joining us from Capitol Hill. He is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, good to have you with us tonight with this really important story.
Good to be with you, Ed.
Senator, talk to us tonight about the systematic use of torture. What do you mean by that? Was it all through the system?
This was authorized at the highest levels. There was a decision made, I guess approved by the National Security Council and, of course, endorsed by the Vice President, at least explicitly, that they'd use these aggressive techniques. The order came from Rumsfeld in December of 2002. That these aggressive techniques would be used at Guantanamo. They were used at Guantanamo. They then went from there. You can follow the chain right over to Afghanistan and to Iraq. The people who have been held accountable are the folks at the lowest level, but no one at the highest level has been held accountable despite legal opinions, which I thought were abominable, policy decisions which violated the code of the highest military ethic. If you just listen to General Petraeus on this one, Petraeus says we are fighting for these values. We're fighting for high values. We're not going to stoop to the level of the Chinese communists, who are the ones who instituted these kinds of activities. They were patterned after the Chinese communists, but the reason we ever trained our people in them was to resist interrogation. And so there's a big downside when you use these kind of aggressive and abusive tactics.
Senator, it's been characterized as a partisan report. Are there Republicans on the Senate Armed Services Committee that go along with your assessment?
No, this is a committee report, Ed. I'm glad you asked. This report here is over 200 pages, over 1,000 footnotes. It took us a year plus to put together. There was no dissent at all on the Armed Services Committee to the approval of this report. Everyone was given an opportunity to write any dissenting views or additional views. There were none from any of the Republicans or Democrats.
Well, Senator, I have to ask you on that, because last night Chris Matthews had an interview on Hardball with Senator John Ensign, who characterized it as only the Democrats supporting this, and it was a partisan report. You say that's not the case?
It's absolutely wrong. This was approved by the Armed Services Committee at a regular approval. It was voice voted, but there was a large number of members there on both sides of the aisle. We had more than a quorum. Everybody voice voted this yes, and most importantly, everybody was explicitly given the opportunity to write any dissenting views, any additional views. None of them came in. Now, Senator Ensign is not on the Armed Services Committee.
Okay.
But Senator McCain, Senator Graham, and other Republicans very strongly, explicitly support this report, and there was no disagreement. And again, I emphasize, this is a Senate Armed Services Committee. It's a bipartisan report.
All right, Senator, you cleared that up perfectly. Now, let's talk about moving forward with possible investigation and prosecution. You mentioned John McCain. Here's what he had to say this morning on the CBS Early Show.
In banana republics, they prosecute people for actions they didn't agree with under previous administrations. And to go back on a witch hunt that could last for a year or so, frankly, is going to be bad for the country, bad for future presidents, precedents that may be set by this, and certainly non-productive in trying to pursue the challenges we face.
Senator Levin, is this Senate Armed Services Committee a witch hunt against the Bush administration?
Well, I don't think John McCain was saying that our report was a witch hunt.
Well, he was saying that the prosecution would be a witch hunt.
Yeah, but our report is the facts, and John McCain signs up to this, so I don't think he was referring to this. But I think what needs to be done now is the Department of Justice, which is there for a reason, which is to make determinations on accountability and to decide on remedies, should make the decision, either themselves or I recommend it to the Attorney General, that he appoint 1 or 2 or 3 perhaps retired federal judges who will have the credibility that will make a recommendation on whether anybody should be prosecuted or held accountable in any way. I think this is the way to take it out of politics. That's what the Department of Justice is there for.
Senator, got to ask you about the troubling situation in your state of Michigan. What do you want to see happen with General Motors and Chrysler? In your opinion, is bankruptcy an option?
Well, I don't think bankruptcy is the right option. Obviously, it is not an alternative, which is desirable, because then people will have the impression that the company will not be there to carry out warranties and make repairs. So that is not the goal. However, if that ends up being the case, it would hopefully then be an in-and-out bankruptcy, which would be shedding some of the liabilities. But clearly, that is not the desirable option.
Senator, great to have you on with us tonight. Thanks so much for your direct answers.
Thank you, Ed.
You bet.